Somewhere in your childhood, a list was written. Not on paper, in your nervous system. A list of conditions that had to be met before love would arrive. Be good. Be quiet. Be useful. Don't need too much. Don't feel too loudly. Perform. And in exchange for meeting the conditions, you would receive warmth, attention, the version of love that was available. The list was never spoken. It didn't need to be. You learned it the way children learn everything, by watching what happened when you met the conditions and what happened when you didn't. And you've been checking the list ever since, in every relationship, in every job, in every room you enter. Not because you're needy, because you're running a checklist that was written before you could read. In this video, 10 signs that your childhood taught you love is conditional. For each one, the condition that was installed and the check you still run in adulthood, because the conditions don't expire when you leave home. They follow you, and they keep running until you see them. Number 1. The condition. Love was earned through performance. The quiet child was loved. The helpful child was loved. The excellent child was loved. The child who simply existed, without performing, without producing, without being useful, was not met with love. They were met with indifference. The check. In adulthood, you perform in every relationship. You're the most helpful friend, the most accommodating partner, the most reliable colleague, not because you want to be, because the system still runs. If I stop performing, the love stops. And you have never tested that belief because testing it feels like free fall. What if you stop being useful and the person stays? That outcome has no precedent in your data, so you keep performing, just in case. And the performing has a specific quality. It's exhausting, but it's also invisible. Nobody around you knows you're performing. They think this is just who you are, helpful, reliable, accommodating. They don't know that underneath the helpfulness is a calculation running constantly. Am I doing enough? Is this earning the love? What happens if I stop? And the answer to what happens if I stop is the one you've never been willing to find out. Because in the original household, stopping the performance meant becoming invisible. And being invisible meant the love, however conditional, disappeared entirely. Number 2. The condition. The parent's mood determined whether you were loved or punished. A good mood meant safety. A bad mood meant you were the cause, the target, or the solution. The child learned, read the room before you enter it. Their mood is your forecast. The check. You walk into every room scanning. A partner's sigh is decoded in milliseconds. A colleague's tone shift is analyzed before the sentence ends. You are not reading moods because you're empathetic. You are reading moods because the original data says their emotional state determines your safety. And the scanning never stops because the original environment never provided a stable baseline. Number 3. The condition. Needs were treated as impositions. The child who needed attention was too much. The child who needed comfort was dramatic. The child who needed help was a burden. The message. Your needs are an inconvenience to the people who are supposed to meet them. The check. You preface every need with an apology. Sorry to bother you, but I know this is a lot, but I hate to ask, but the apology is not politeness. It's the tax your system charges for the crime of needing something from another person. And the tax was set in childhood when needing was punished with withdrawal, frustration, or the message that your needs made you less lovable. And the cruelest version, you apologize for needing things that are basic, not extravagant asks. Basic human requirements, a hug, a conversation, someone's time. And each apology communicates two things simultaneously. To the other person, it says, I'm polite. To your nervous system, it says, my needs are a burden and I should minimize them to maintain the conditions for love. The apology is not communication. It's the condition running. Number 4. The condition. Rest was conditional on output. You could rest after you finished. You could rest after everyone else was taken care of. You could rest when you had earned it. Rest as a right, rest simply because you exist and bodies require it, was never modeled. The check. You cannot rest without guilt. Sitting still feels like failure. A weekend without productivity feels wasted, and the guilt is specific. I haven't done enough to earn this pause. The system is checking the old list. Have I met the conditions? Have I produced enough? And if the answer is no, and the answer is always no because the list has no completion point, rest feels stolen rather than taken. Number 5. The condition, love was transactional. I give, you give. I sacrifice, you acknowledge. Every act of love had a corresponding expectation. Nothing was free. The child learned love has a ledger, and if the ledger is imbalanced, love is withdrawn. The check. You track what you give and what you receive, not consciously, automatically. When you give more than you get, resentment builds. Not because you're petty, but because the system reads imbalance as danger. If I'm giving more, I'm earning love. If they're not reciprocating, the conditions aren't being met. And unmet conditions in the original system meant love would be revoked. And here's the part that makes this sign so confusing. You know it's unhealthy to keep score. You've read the articles. You understand that love shouldn't be transactional, and you do it anyway, because the knowing is cognitive and the scorekeeping is somatic. Your mind knows love isn't a transaction. Your body keeps the ledger anyway. Because the body was trained in a household where the ledger was real, where love was a transaction, and where the math had to balance, or the warmth would be withdrawn. Number 6. The condition. Praise was not free. It came before a request, before correction. Before the second half of the sentence, you're so good at this, so why can't you do that? Praise was the warm-up for the demand. And the child learned, when someone says something nice, wait. The cost is coming. The check. Someone compliments you and you deflect, minimize, redirect. Not because you lack self-esteem, because the system is scanning for the invoice. What do they want? What will this praise cost me? Compliments feel like the first half of a transaction, and you've been waiting for the second half your entire life. Number 7. The condition. Vulnerability was penalized. The child who cried was told to stop. The child who struggled was told to try harder. The child who showed weakness was met with impatience, disappointment, or the specific message, strong people don't show this. Love was available for the version of you that was fine, not for the version that was falling apart. The check. You are falling apart, and nobody knows. You show the world the version that meets the conditions, competent, stable, together. And the version that is struggling stays hidden because the original data says, if they see this part, the love will stop. Vulnerability was not met with comfort. It was met with conditions. Be strong and I'll stay. Fall apart and I'll leave. And here's what nobody tells the adult who hides their struggles. The hiding is the condition. The condition was, be fine and I'll love you. And the adult version is, be fine or they'll leave. But the people around you now are not the people who installed the condition. Many of them want to see you struggle, not because they enjoy it, because seeing you struggle would mean you trust them enough to be real. And by hiding, You are denying them the intimacy they're offering in the name of a condition that no longer applies. Number 8. The condition. Usefulness was the price of belonging. The child who helped was included. The child who produced was valued. The child who simply occupied space without contributing was invisible. The check. You measure your lovability by your utility. In friendships, am I helping enough? In relationships, am I contributing enough? At work, am I indispensable enough? The moment you stop being useful, the alarm sounds. You are becoming invisible. And invisibility in the original system was the precursor to abandonment. You don't know what it feels like to be loved for existing, only for functioning. And the specific terror of uselessness, when you're sick, when you're tired, when you simply cannot produce. The alarm doesn't say rest. The alarm says you are becoming unlovable, because the original condition had no exception clause. There was no loved even when not useful. There was only useful equals loved, not useful equals invisible. And invisible was not a neutral state. It was the beginning of abandonment. Number 9. Someone loves you, not because you earned it, not because you performed. They just love you, as you are, without conditions. And instead of relief, panic. Because unconditional love has no precedent in your database. The system has no file for love that arrives without earning, and data without a file is classified as threat. The check. When someone loves you freely, you test it. You look for the conditions. You wait for the invoice. You create situations that should revoke the love to see if it holds. And when it holds, when the person stays despite your worst, the system doesn't relax. It escalates. They must not have seen the real me yet. The conditions must be hidden. Unconditional love is not trusted because the system has never processed it before. And the first time it encounters something it has never processed, it calls it danger. And this is perhaps the cruelest condition of all, the very thing you've been searching for. Unconditional love, love without performance, love that just exists, is the thing your system cannot receive. Not because you don't want it, because you have no receptor for it. The receptor for unconditional love was supposed to develop in childhood through repeated experiences of being loved without conditions. That receptor was never built. And now, when unconditional love arrives, it has nowhere to land. It's like receiving a signal your radio was never tuned to pick up. The signal is real. The radio just can't process it yet. Number 10. The deepest sign. You were asked what you want and you don't know. Not because you're indecisive, because wanting was replaced by earning. The child never developed the question, what do I want? Because the only relevant question was, what do I need to do to be loved? Desire was subordinated to performance. And the muscle that identifies genuine preference, the part of you that knows what you actually want, separate from what earns approval, was never exercised. The check. You can tell someone what you should want, what looks right, what would be impressive, what would make the people around you proud. But what you genuinely desire for yourself, without audience, without approval, you cannot access. Because that question was never safe to ask. Wanting something that didn't serve the conditions was wanting something that could get the love revoked. So you stopped wanting. And now, when someone asks, the question echoes in an empty room. And this is the sign that connects to every other sign on this list. The performing, the monitoring, the apologizing, the earning, the scoring, the deflecting, the hiding, the usefulness. All of them exist because the question, what do I want, was replaced with what do they need from me? and the replacement was so complete, so early, so total that the question, "What do I want?" doesn't just go unanswered. It goes unasked. The child who was conditioned to earn love never developed the vocabulary for desire. They developed the vocabulary for compliance, and compliance, no matter how fluent, is not the same language as wanting. 10 conditions. 10 checks still running. The performing, the mood monitoring, the need apologizing, the rest earning, the scorekeeping, the compliment deflecting, the struggle hiding, the usefulness measuring, the unconditional panicking, and the not knowing what you want. You are not needy. You are not high maintenance. You are not difficult. You are someone who was given a list before you could read, and you've been checking it in every relationship since. The list was not love. It was the terms of a contract you never signed, and the contract can be examined, questioned, and gradually replaced with something that doesn't require performance to activate. The replacement doesn't happen by deciding to stop checking the list. It happens by noticing each time you check it. Each time you catch yourself performing for love, monitoring a mood, apologizing for a need, or scanning for the invoice behind a compliment. That's one moment of visibility. And the list, once visible, begins to lose its authority. Not all at once. One check at a time. One condition examined. One moment where you ask, is this my requirement or is this the list's? At Inner Lens, we find the lists that were written before you could read. If this one had your name on it, stay. There is more here. And none of the conditions were ever real.